So exhilarating and so fun to take on that challenge too.
Released nationwide on Boxing Day is Sherlock Holmes, a movie with something of a pedigree. The first actor to star as Holmes was the American leading man William Gillette, whose stage performance became famous the world over and prompted the author Booth Tarkington to offer him perhaps the most elegant compliment ever paid a performer. "I would rather see you play Sherlock Holmes," he told Gillette, "than be a child again on Christmas morning." Gillette took his interpretation onto the cinema screen in 1916 and one of the earliest, but by no means the first, Holmes film. And there have been countless others since, with the role played by everyone from Christopher Lee to Christopher Plummer and from Peter Cushing to Peter Cook after a fashion. Now, in the first major Sherlock adventure to come out of Hollywood in decades, Robert Downey Jr. assumes the mantle of the world's greatest consulting detective, under the direction of Guy Ritchie and with Jude Law as his loyal friend and colleague, Dr. John H. Watson. The film begins at the end of an era. Watson is preparing to leave 221B Baker Street for a new life as a married man, but there's just time for one last adventure. The duo apprehend Lord Blackwood, a wealthy and powerful man obsessed by the occult, as he's about to sacrifice a sick victim to the powers of darkness. But on the eve of the murderer's execution, the great detective suspects there may be a bigger game afoot.
Shortly, my friend will pronounce you dead, and I thought I might keep him company.
Your mistake is to imagine that anything earthly has led to this moment. Your error of judgment is to assume that I'm holding the brush at all. I'm merely the channel.
I wonder if they'd let Watson and me dissect your brain. After you hang, of course. I'd wager there's some deformity that'd be scientifically significant. Then you, too, could serve a greater purpose.
Holmes, you must widen your gaze. I'm concerned you underestimate the gravity of coming events. You and I are bound together on a journey that will twist the very fabric of nature.
But Blackwood's hyperbole is soon silenced by the hangman's noose and the case is closed. Or is it?
It's Lord Blackwood, sir. Well, it appears he's come back from the grave, sir.
Most engaging.
Very clever. I pronounced the man dead myself.
What are the facts?
Groundskeeper claims he saw him walking through the graveyard just this morning, sir.
I'll leave this in your capable hands. I have an appointment with Mary.
It's not my reputation that's at stake here.
Don't try that.
Have the newspapers got wind of it yet?
Well, that's what we're trying to avoid, sir.
Certainly. What's the major concern?
Panic. Sheer bloody panic, sir.
Indeed.
You're not taking this seriously, are you, Holmes?
Yes, as you should. It's a matter of professional integrity. No girl wants to marry a doctor who can't tell if a man's dead or not.
For Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law, the key to on-screen chemistry was off-screen tomfoolery, as we discovered on set last year when Downey Jr.'s waistline came under fire.
He's got to be skinny. There's no book that ever said he wasn't
skinny.
skinny.
Tubbs.
I know.
Sherlock Tubbs.
It's all right. I'll be doing some runway modeling after this. I'm gonna snatch up your contracts, baby.
Are you wearing a
false nose? No.
Tell me that wasn't...
Holmes! Where are you going?
But did the leading men detect a little of themselves in their characters?
I think the fact that these characters are so legendary is because we all share traits with them, to be honest.
Robert has a mercurial kind of quality and an energy and about him as a in real life that he's definitely brought to Sherlock, a quizzical need to understand as well. And Jude, I think there's an element to Watson which is a sort of a confidence and a slight exasperation with everything around him.
I've been reviewing my notes on our exploits over the last 7 months. Would you like to know my conclusion? I am psychologically disturbed.
How so?
Why else would I continually be led into situations where you deliberately withhold your plans from me?
You've never complained about my methods before.
I never complain. When do I complain about you practicing the violin at 3 a.m, or your mess, your general lack of hygiene, or the fact that you steal my clothes?
I understand.
Do you?
But how did Guy Ritchie, the Lock, Stock and Snatch director, ally his love of action with Conan Doyle's Victorian masterpiece of observation and deduction?
That takes place organically and rather unconsciously. I mean, you just feel when there is a moment to capitalise and exploit his traits.
We took it upon ourselves to be co-creators and try to massage some of these things so it's not like, here's where they're on the case and here's where they're doing an action sequence.
run. Just run.
One more.
You know, it wouldn't be bad. Let him do one. How do you say one more, please, in French? Of course he will play.
Whilst they're on the case, Holmes goes somewhere because he thinks, oh no, I know I have to go there to find this. Oh dear, there's a terribly large man there and I have to, oh, will you, and that leads to the physical aspect and then that leads on to another clue and it's never like, right, fight time. It's like...
It's obstacles.
Obstacles, exactly. Yeah. And then in the books, he refers to those as being apprehended or putting aside several, large villains. And, well, in film, you get to see that. And, of course, that means you got to get down and dirty in old
If we just apprehended him, we'd had a 30-day shoot. But you would probably not be sitting here now.
First, distract target. Then block his blind jab. Counter with cross to left cheek. Discombobulate. Dazed, he'll attempt wild haymaker. Weaken right jaw. Now fracture. Break cracked ribs. Heel kick to diaphragm. In summary, ears ringing, jaw fractured, 3 ribs cracked, 4 broken, diaphragm hemorrhaging. Physical recovery 6 weeks. Full psychological recovery 6 months.
Back with the plot, and it's thickening nicely. Blackwood's risen from the dead and he's coming after Holmes and Watson. And worse, he's managed to rope Irene Adler, the only woman ever to outsmart the great detective, into his evil machinations.
Get his leg up, old boy. These German locks always give you trouble. It's a bandsaw. No matter, we have plenty of time.
It's not working!
Keep calm.
Hurry up.
As I suspect many Sherlock Holmes devotees will be, I was a little wary about this new incarnation of Conan Doyle's classic character. The great detective is a fantastically robust and adaptable creation, but even so, reinventing him for the age of CGI action-adventure looked like it could be a three-pipe problem. However, we have it on the best authority that it is a capital mistake to theorise before one has data. And as it turns out, this film does nothing to diminish the appeal of Holmes and Watson and plenty to enhance it. Most obviously, Robert Downey Jr. is immediately and completely likable and credible as the brilliant but troubled title character. It's an inspired piece of casting, not simply because he's a very talented actor, but also because he appears to be an intelligent and inquisitive spirit, so that, as with Holmes himself, the prospect of boredom might loom large. Alongside him, Jude Law is a confident, ultra-dependable Watson. Kelly Riley and Rachel McAdams both acquit themselves very capably as the main female characters, and Mark Strong makes a splendidly menacing villain. And even if Guy Ritchie's direction isn't especially imaginative, the film is consistently enjoyable to watch and hear. The excellent cinematography creates a kind of comic book version of Victorian London that's dangerous and thrilling, while Hans Zimmer's score, with more than a nod to Ennio Morricone's 70s vintage, complements the action very effectively. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if this well-executed romp proves to be the first in a new Holmes franchise. It's very exciting and immensely entertaining, which leads me to conclude that the game is most definitely afoot.